This is the all-in-one groove board, part of the Nicholas Lodge collection. This multi-use board is made for the creation of petals and leaves and also flowers. So the board has several different options here. So first of all, on the base here, there actually are 6 ridges, but there are 5 ridges of the same size. These 5 ridges are used to make leaves and petals. So for example, if I was making a flower like something like a lily, where I would be using a lily petal cutter to make the petals and the leaves, I generally would roll over 3 ridges, then roll up, roll down as I will show you, peel it off, cut out 3 leaves or 3 petals, put those in my plastic flap. Then I would repeat with another 3. If I was making a flower like, for example, an orchid, like a Cattleya or a Cymbidium orchid, I would roll a sausage of paste over 5 ridges to cut out the 5 petals or sepals at the same time. Also, when we do production work like rose leaves, you can roll obviously over and you could cut out 30 leaves or so, and then you can continue with the next step of wiring and veining. The long ridge here on the side, which also I will be showing you in this segment, we use for long leaves like when we make magnolias, when you make sunflower leaves, when you make like this is like a large rated leaf where we need a bigger ridge, but any of the longer or skinnier leaves we use this long single ridge. And then here we have, these are used for Mexican hat flowers, so we use these for cherry blossoms, dogwood flowers. I mean, just lots and lots of different types of flowers, daffodil, trumpets are made in here. So in my various books and also in my craftsy class, you will see me use these holes a lot. And there are 3 sizes depending on what size back you want for your relevant flower. So with the board, this comes with a non-slip mat. So obviously this stops it sliding around. So just going to pop that down on top of this. So this gives you a nice secure base. Now when we're making 5 leaves or 5 petals, using the size guide, you're normally going to range somewhere between number 14 size to number 16, so 14, 15 or 16, depending on how long the leaf is going to be. Because if you were making something like a lily leaf as opposed to a rose leaf is a lot shorter, so a 14 would be fine for the smaller leaves. So usually with the 5 ridges, we range between number 14 and number 16 in size. This is some moss green gum paste, and I'm going to just work a little bit of vegetable shortening into this. Just get this a little neat on my table here. And then we're just going to roll this into a sausage. I'm just going to roll your sausage over the top of your 5 ridges here. You see how I'm just rolling this. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's going to be squashed in a second. But you see how this spans over the top of the 5 ridges. So then I'm going to flatten this down. Now you notice I didn't put any cornstarch on my board because I actually want the little veins or ridges, as I refer to them. This is what actually is going to accommodate the wire. So just going to put a little cornstarch on the top, taking in my Nicholas Lodge Professional rolling pin. Remember, this has got a nice weight to it. It's also non-stick. So just going to roll across the top. I'm going to roll up and we're going to roll down. So then once you've rolled up and you've rolled down, you come down towards the bottom. Now, of course, for a leaf like a rose leaf, that's fairly short. There shouldn't be any worry there about we don't have enough length. But if you were doing something like a lily leaf, for example, I would be using, first of all, 15 instead of 14. So that would enable me to roll out. But normally with something bigger, I would always check before I peel this off the board that it is long enough to accommodate the petal or leaf. So then we're going to peel this off, and we're going to turn this over. So I'm going to take my smaller, it's my textured mat. So this comes with a non-slip mat as well. So just going to pop these. So when I'm teaching, normally I have the big board underneath and then obviously have this other board on top, and then we just move them around as needed. So when we're creating leaves for something like a rose leaf, just going to cut out the rose leaf like this, and then we would go along and you'd obviously cut out the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th. And then once you've cut these out, you put these into your multi-flap to stop them drying, and then the excess paste would be taken and then put into your bag. And then when you take the leaf here, we're just going to take the wire. This is a 28 gauge wire, so I've dipped this into my little easy pot. Just remove the excess egg here, and then you're just going to take the ridge, hold the ridge between your thumb and first finger, and going to insert the wire like this. So generally on smaller leaves and petals, I would put the wire in about halfway in and do this between my thumb and first finger. Then I would mold around the base, then of course I'd move on to the veining and the softening and finishing off of the leaf. But this is the basic technique of using the ridge board. Now, when you're doing longer leaves, so for example, something like a lily of the valley leaf or a hydrangea leaf, something like that, you're going to be using this long ridge here. I have actually a piece of paste about number 13 size, because this is going to just be an individual leaf. And then you're going to place this time we're going to place the ridge horizontal, vertical instead of horizontal. So you see how it just sits vertically onto the board. And you can just move the board if it's easier to be in the correct place. Little cornstarch on the top. And then we're just going to roll across the leaf this way and this way. So you see you're coming toward the edge of the board. And then we're going to just then roll up till it's large enough to accommodate the leaf. Again, we would just check this. And then we would take the ridge. Again, we're going to just bring in our non-slip mat. So this is a serrated leaf here. So again, we're just going to press this down. Going to pull the excess paste. So this is actually like a large serrated leaf. So for example, on my Craftsy Sweet Season Sunflower class, this is the one I use for, as I said, some of the sunflower leaves. Now generally when I'm using longer leaves, I prefer to put my leaf onto my pad here. It doesn't matter whether it's the green or the black side. And just take the wire, because this means it's easier to put the wire in. So then you're just going to put the wire in and you're just going to feel it tickle. So you're just twisting the wire as this goes into the leaf. So that's how we insert a wire and then mold around the base for a larger leaf, like for example a sunflower or tulip leaf. So that is how we would continue with the leaves. Then we have, here we have these are used for Mexican hat flowers. So again, Mexican hat flower, because it looks a little bit like a little sombrero. So we would start off from anywhere between usually about a number 7 through to about a number 12, depending on the size. But the basic way this works, and again in my books, my classes, my Craftsy classes, I show using this. So for example, like on my Craftsy Sweet Season Spring Cherry Blossom class, when we make a cherry blossom, we're going to be using a number 8 small. And how these work, so this is going to be a number 8 that goes through the hole. How these work is that you generally, when we make Mexican hats, depending on the size you want, you would use a small, medium, or large hole. So this would be used for things like cherry blossoms, lilac, bouvardia, any of those smaller flowers. This would be used like for stephanotis size flowers. This is used for things like daffodil, tulip, trumpets for a daffodil. So sometimes we start off with a ball shape. So when we use a ball, what that does is when we take that and you then press that on the top, put a little cornstarch on the top here. And generally when I'm working on the smaller hole, I would normally use the large stick, which is the green stick here. If it does come off, just put a little bit more cornstarch onto it. It just means that it's but we don't want to use a rolling pin here, because the rolling pin would impact this into the paste too much. You see how you roll this off, and then when you turn this over, then when you cut out with your, for example, like your cherry blossom cutter, this would give you the little flower, which you then would vein and pull the stamens through into the little hat part, so the hat would become the underneath. Sometimes when we're doing flowers, we also start off with a, for example, a slightly different shape in that we start off with a ball, and this would be a ball shape that we then flatten. So I refer to this as like a little hamburger patty, so it's like a little pad shape, all right? And then when we do certain flowers with a more of a shallow back, what we do there is we put this on the top, and again this could go on the small, medium, or large, and again you can put this on. You're going to roll across the top. And when you move on to, for example, using the medium or the large hole, I often change out to the medium pin because this is a little bit bigger, but never the rolling pin here. And so when you then roll across the top, Then you see when you peel this off, this is going to just give you a slightly shorter version of the Mexican hat, so it's not going to be quite elongated. And then now the other version of a Mexican hat we use, which is shown on where I show the little silicone board feet, I show how to make the carrot shape for a flower like a Stephanotis or Bavaria. That is where you start off, but you'd raise the board up under the little silicone feet. So this is the, I said, the all-in-one board, so a great product to use when making flowers and leaves for production work or for beautiful flowers.